So I really was amused by that song. I'm sure I've heard it before, but the I went to Catholic school too. I actually was raised by, in my grade school had really friendly nuns. I'm grateful for, but I know Roland got his knuckles rapped a few times with a ruler. So that's a true story. Okay, here's my metaphysical demonstration for the day. Now, we're going to say that this little black box represents God. And all those little balls are us. Okay? The light goes on. The light goes off. The point I'm making is that whether the light is on or off, all of the lights are connected to the source, right? And all of these particular lights are connected to each other too. And in this case, it's a switch. But even when the switch is off, the lights are still connected to the source. We are always connected to our source. Always, always, always connected to our source. Now, teachers from all the world religions and all the spiritual explorers teach us in so many different ways, over and over, that we are connected and that it is just our perception or our level of consciousness or our level of awareness when we feel separate from our source and each other. And there are practices that we can undertake to strengthen our realization of our connection. And I started this morning, as we always do, with meditation, which is definitely an awesome practice, connect us to our source. And I believe that I cannot remind all of us, including myself, to pray and meditate enough. Not that you need to be praying and meditating all the time, but we forget. And just a little bit of time, just a little bit of time every day can make a miraculous change in your life. Like I said, it is the creating of the space. We have some intention and we get it back tenfold. Now, the next thing I want to focus on, there's definitely focusing inward, but there's also connection through focusing outward. You notice that all these lights are connected together. And there's some awesome social science now. This is some awesome social science. There's a science of connection. And I watched an awesome TED Talk, which I will post on the website where it says Sunday Extras. I will post the TED Talk. And I won't say, so I want you to watch this TED Talk, which is from a professor named Dr. Emma Seppala. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about what she said because it was so frickin' awesome. Now, she calls it social connection, which just means connected to other people in the room, right? So, social connection improves physical health and mental and emotional well-being. We all think we know how to take good care of ourselves. Eat your veggies, work out, try and get enough sleep. But did you know, and maybe you do, did you know that actually social connection is just as important? In fact, one landmark study showed that if you do not have a social connection, if you're not connected to anyone, it is a greater detriment to health than obesity, smoking, and high blood pressure. So not being connected to someone is worse for your health than any of those things which we know are bad for us, right? So too many French fries is better than not enough friends. Or at least that's the equation in my head. So think of how many more French fries you can have, depending on how many friends. Now, the interesting thing that they found is that it doesn't actually matter how many friends you have. Like, you could have 1,000 friends, and many people do have 1,000 friends on Facebook. So it really isn't the number. It is the level of the connection. So here's a question I want you to ask yourself. If you had something troubling you, think of how, a personal thing. How many people could you go to? Just take a minute, go through the list in your mind. Who would you go to? The average or the number that the study found is people have 2 people. But here is the sad part. The most popular answer was none. So most of the people have none. And the average is 2. So it's not the number, but it is just having, the 1 person or the 2 people that you could go to. And that's why what we're doing is golden here, okay? Like, that's why we keep coming back on Sunday or on a Tuesday at noon for sound healing or a class, or when we've had our Wednesday night meditations, or our things on the patio, potluck on the patio. That's why this is really golden, not just spiritually, but to our whole complete mental and physical health. That this is so crucial. If you have a strong social connection, it's going to lead to a 50% increased chance of longevity. It's going to make your life longer. It's going to strengthen your immune system. How about that? That if you are suffering from loneliness, that your very cells will react with more inflammation. Your social connection helps you recover from disease faster. People who feel more connected to others have lower levels of anxiety and depression. Moreover, studies show that they have higher self-esteem, greater empathy for others, are more trusting and cooperative. Just, on and on. And as I said, loneliness is on the rise. Apparently, in the new statistics, like there was a study done in 2004, that's when most people said who they would go to with a problem was 0. In 1985, when they did it before, people had more social connection. We know that we want to be part of the change of that. Now, one of the things that I thought was interesting in the professor's talk was she talked about smiling. Now, if I smile at you, so everybody, we're all going to fake smile or real smile, whatever you want. 1, 2, 3. So those are muscles in your face. And here's what happens is if I frown, you don't have to frown, but if I frown, your face does your micro muscles do a mirror reaction to my frown. So if I'm frowning, you're not thinking frowning, it's an involuntary thing. Your muscles are going to react. You're just going to have a little frowning muscle memory in there. But if I smile, the same is going to be true for smiling. So if you're smiling at people, even if they don't smile back, you have actually transferred a smile. You've transferred a smile. The professor talked about she'd given this talk at Stanford, and one of the students decided that she was going to make a change, and she was going to do her part to combat loneliness. And in her dorm, there was a student who would best be described as a loner and would glare at people. Whenever the student would come into the dorm, she was just, glaring and not. You could just, how some people you can feel the waves coming off of them. Don't talk to me. Don't bother me. So what she did was she started smiling at this person. So, every time she saw her, she smiled at the person, And the person just glared. And this went on for weeks, maybe a whole month. At the end of the month, the person came up to her and said, "Thank you for seeing me." You know, that, I mean, and basically could quite literally have changed her life, you know, knowing students who are isolated at that young age in college. Think about that. That made a big transformation. So your homework today is to smile at 3 people. Not in here. I mean, you can smile at all of us in here, but that's not your homework. That's just because we're all smiley in here. Your homework is to go out in the world and smile at 3 people and smile. And know that even if they don't smile back, they are more likely to smile at the next person because their micro muscles have been triggered. So how interesting is that? That smiling could save somebody's life. Dr. Sepala made this really cool graphic, which I'm going to make a big poster of. I don't have a big poster of it. I'm going to read it for you, but we're going to post it for a while in our awesome community room, which, interestingly enough, the reason we wanted to make that room was so that we would have, you know, one more place to connect and a different way to connect. And I think we're all excited about it. If you haven't seen it yet, go in there and, you know, we're going to start using it. The main purpose of that room is for connection. To have a cup of coffee or tea, to sit down and talk to someone, to have a class in there. And then ultimately, we're going to also work on connecting in another way. We're going to up our communication and have community bulletin boards. So there's things you know about your community, things to do in your community. We're going to have a upgraded unity bulletin board so that you're going to know about more things. So that's also a way to connect. I want to tell you some of the benefits. I'm going to just read you this, then we'll be having that up there. So here's the benefits of high social connection. Stronger gene expression for immunity. So this is so interesting. She told the story about baboons, and maybe you know that baboons have those, I can't remember, you know, the big baboons that are like the boss, and they kind of beat up everyone else. So as it happens, there's a stronger genetic component for the nice guy baboons, because while the mean baboons are lording it over and fighting with each other, the nice guys are getting with the lady baboons. And they're making more children. So you see the genetic component, and not just in baboons, that the survival of the fittest that's an old thought, that the actual reality of science is survival of the kindest, that all organisms that take care of each other are the ones that last. You know, it's not the strong, mean baboons, it's the nice guys, the nice gals. So I love that story. Obvious reasons. And how about that? So that's just an awesome thing to think about. High social connection is lower rates of anxiety and depression. I know that from myself, that if I'm feeling anxious, I can sit by myself and be more anxious. One of the things I like to do is go for a walk. That takes care of it. But the other thing is to call a friend. There's something about connecting to somebody else when you're anxious that lightens, that just helps dissipate that. There's higher self-esteem and empathy. We all know that empathy is part of the being nice and part of connecting to other people. You have better emotional regulation skills. So the more connection you have, the less likely you are to freak out and have a fit in unless you're 2, which of course it is your right to have a fit at the grocery store if you're 2. But when you're beyond 2, the more social connection, the less like you are. Now, this isn't just a light thing, is it? Because think about the people who are freaking out and shooting people. I mean, let's just be brutal about this. Those people are isolated and they are not connected and they do not have the emotional regulating capacity. So it's about connection. The lesson is we want to connect. We want to reach out. We want to teach our children to connect. We want to connect to each other. The stronger we are together, you don't have to go seeking for the people not around you. I promise you, you don't have to hunt for people. You will find people in your life to connect to, and you will find people to connect to that you have no idea how much better you made their day. I was talking about my favorite baby this morning. Well, yeah, not my favorite. All my babies are favorite, but I like to call her my baby because she comes. And how just when I see a baby or a little, you see one of those baskets, I have to go and look at the baby. I just have to go look at that little face because there's just something about those little faces. Like even if they're screaming yesterday, there was one screaming so loud, but I had to look at it because it just, even though it was screaming, I felt so happy. I feel that really beautiful connection. Because we are, as Brene Brown says, we are hardwired for connection. Remember? Survival of the kindness, survival of the connected. And I think I already told you that the dangers of low connection, including violence and antisocial behavior and suicide. Now, how much social connections do Americans have at present? Well, unfortunately, loneliness and isolation and alienation are on the rise. And, oh my goodness, this is not even that recent. In 2004, 25% of Americans claimed they have no one to share a problem with. Loneliness is the main reason why people seek psychological counseling. So how can you increase your social connection and your spiritual connection? It says, I'm an introvert. I have no friends. What should I do? Well, all the benefits, as I said before, have nothing to do with how many people you're connected to. It comes from your internal and subjective sense of connection, as long as you feel connected to others on the inside. For example, when I look at a baby, some of the babies might feel connected to me, but not if they're sleeping or screaming. But I have the internal sense of connection. So we can take responsibility for feeling connected to people and finding ways we can be connected. Think of children who went up to play with children they don't know. They feel connected from within. Yesterday, I was at the Metaphysical Fair. We were able to get a free table, because we're not for profit, for Unity, which has been awesome. I got to connect with tons of people. And I'll be going there this afternoon. It's a really nice fair. Lots of our people are there. Some other people have other booths, but at least there's plenty of Unity people there. And I got the chance to talk to people who'd never heard about Unity or people who'd been to Unity a long time ago, and it was great. We're also we have a survey, and people are filling out about surveys about what they might like in a spiritual community, which will help us. And we have new names on our mailing list and stuff like that. So that's fun and really great. But the story I want to tell is that next door, we're like, it's funny, we're the Paul and the Way Showers Fellowship is right by us. Then there's Unity's table, and then there's the School of Metaphysics. So Kathy Simpson and I have just been at the table. We just thought we'd keep it simple and we'd be there the whole time. And then, but the School of Metaphysics and the other table, they have lots of volunteers, like 'cause they're doing stuff and talking to people, giving in dream interpretations and past life regressions and all kinds of fun stuff. But at the School of Metaphysics, there was a volunteer there, and she had 3 little boys. And she was talking to people, and I was playing with the 3 little boys. Well, one of the boys was actually underneath the table with his phone. He was fine. But 2 of them, and the reason I started playing with them was because this little, like, 3-year-old just comes up to me and does that. I mean, who doesn't want that? Like, okay, you come right up here and we're going to play. So we played for an hour, and luckily Kathy could answer the questions of anybody who wanted to talk about Unity. But I had so much fun. I don't always get enough little kids in my life, and there was something so disarming about that. And that's what this is about. That's what this particular aspect. As long as you feel connected to others on the inside, he didn't even think about it. He didn't know that I was really good at playing with 3-year-olds, which I am. But because I saw him go up to other people who may not have been as good at, it's like he just had that inside of him. He had that instinct. The other thing that was really cool that was in the talk is that when people are tested in some, to see if they'll help, if they'll be connected. There was a study where they had children, 2-year-olds, because they haven't really learned the social stuff. So 2-year-olds were in a room, and the professor, or the scientist, like fell down and was trying to reach a pen. The 2-year-olds would go help all the time. They would crawl over chairs, they would crawl under tables, they would go through obstacles without thinking to help the researcher get the pen that they desperately wanted somehow. The kids could know that. And even adults, now here's the funny thing, when adults were tested, okay, you have this much free money, are you going to share it or keep it? If they answer within the first few seconds, I think that they almost always say share it. If they give them longer to think about it, more of them decide to keep it. But meaning the instinct is to share. The instinct is to share. So, the instinct is to help. The instinct is to have empathy. That is our natural being. So here's how we can keep connecting our internal sense of connection and thus spread our divinity and our light. Give, share, support, and do acts of service and kindness for others. That's 1. Number 2, take care of oneself. What? I'm talking about other people? Yes. Stress is linked to high self-focus and a lower sense of connection. If you're happy within, you're less stressful. So I need to get enough sleep, for example. I need to make sure I'm fed, and I need to have time alone. There's times when I've asked Roland, do you think you could leave the house for 3 hours? He's so nice, he always does. Or I go for a walk, but I have to do that. And if I don't do that, did you do that on purpose? I know he didn't, but the universe did. I have to do that. Or I am just, someone, I'm going to be the glaring person, right? I'm going to be the glaring person, don't talk to me, leave me alone. And then here's the third thing, ask for help. Research shows that people are willing to help, but we don't ask. I am definitely guilty of that. So, we're clear. Give, share, support, and do acts of service and kindness. Take care of yourself and ask for help. Now, I want to end with a couple of really awesome quotes about connection. And then we've got more to study all month. This is from Chief Seattle. This we know, all things are connected, like the blood that unites one family. Whatever befalls the earth, befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. Man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. The same idea is at the core of the Earth Charter, a remarkable declaration of 16 fundamental principles to build a just, sustainable, and peaceful world. The preamble of the Earth Charter states, "We stand at a critical moment in Earth's history, a time when humanity must choose its future. We must recognize that in the midst of a magnificent diversity of cultures and life forms, we are one human family and one Earth community with a common destiny." Well, let's take an offering for unity. And I'm going to ask for